Okay, let's do this. Hopefully this is started. Just going to double check a few things. Okay. Hoping that this is going. Otherwise, it looks like it's going. Perfect. Welcome everybody. Glad to be here. We're going to get going in just a couple minutes. Looking at that chat box, looks like we've got a few people watching. It's going to be a good day. We're listening to one of my favorite albums from Yes. And if anybody in the chat wants to let me know that the audio is at a good balanced level, trying a few different things. I'm moving the microphone a little closer to me, putting in the speakers equal distance. Let me know that everything's coming through at a nice crisp level. While we're doing that, I'm going to throw the link around so that other people can join us so that we can have a nice discussion going on as well. So yeah, how's everybody doing? Hopefully everybody's doing alright. I'm monitoring the chat box. There's a little bit of a lag, so just be aware of that. But hopefully it will all be well. That's what we're here for tonight. Just a nice, fun time. So, it'll be a good day. Good day indeed. Very balanced. Awesome. Perfect. Thanks for letting me know, guys. Just throwing this link out to some of the other places so that we can have a little bit more of a discussion. Let everybody know that we're in it. So, for those that don't know, does anybody want to take a stab at whatever we're listening to tonight? I know that I've already kind of let people know through the title card and whatnot. I guess it's pretty obvious because of the name. I'm excited for this. This is one of my favorite Yes albums. So, hopefully, y'all will enjoy it as well. And if not, it'll be alright. As I said, I'm just throwing this link out. There we are. I think I'll put it there, and I'm going to put it... People should know. Alright, so as I said, we're going to get going probably in another minute, and then we're going to dive right into it. Got some Mannheim Steamroller playing here. Alright, I think we've waited long enough. People can come in. First song here isn't necessarily my favorite, but it is a great time. So I'm going to see if we can't find that chat box so that I get a much quicker. There we go. Okay. So let's put Mannheim on pause. Let's dive into Going for the One from Yes. This is the Yes album that came out in 1977. And it came out at a very interesting time for the band. Rick Wakeman had just returned to the band after his departure from Relayered, and the band was starting to try different things. I think most of these guys were written in Norway or Sweden or somewhere around there. So it has a much more symphonic sound in terms of heavy use of organs and synthesizers. It's one of my favorite ones. But let's dive in for Going for the One with the title track of Going for the One. I'm going to turn that down just a smidge. There we are. And it's such an interesting way that Steve Howe starts off this with such a poignant guitar riff there. Like it's almost country and western style. It's a little strange in that sense. But it has such that pumping, that groove and move. And it's so joyful as well. I'm not saying that Relayered wasn't joyful, but this is much more a celebration of music in that sense. I'm going to move that actually over there. Move that over there. Alright. If anybody has any questions or any concerns or anything they want to let me know, I've got my eye on that chat. We're here for an interactive experience. This is a little bit more of a, I guess, yeah, an interactive experience. So if there's been something that you wanted to ask me, anything you want to know, now would be the time to do it. Although, when we get to Turn of the Century, I'm not going to be as interactive. I have a perfect idea of what I would want a like a music video to be for that. So I'm gonna say it as I go through. So until then, we're just gonna groove out to this. I love how bouncy this song starts off with. So hopefully everybody's having a good day. Everybody's having a fine time. As I said, I'm keeping my eye on this chat box just in case anybody has anything to say. It's funny because I don't really have too much to say about the opening track of Going for the One, outside of the fact that it's bouncy. The guitar playing from How is very, very good. And Rick Wakeman is quite present on this as well. I mean, everybody's pretty present on there. I'm just going to ignore what Ding Dong had just said. I'm not even going to acknowledge that. I'm just going to keep plowing forward. But yeah, I remember back in high school, either grade 11 or 12, every year, starting at that, I made what I called a Happy Tunes. And Going for the One, Wondrous Stories, and there was another track that I had from Yes. They were all on there as Happy Tunes. And every year since then, I've had a Happy Tunes, and I think I'm up to like Happy Tunes 15 or 16. Coming up to this May, it'll probably be Happy Tunes 16. Yeah, I love the rare start to an album that way. I agree. I don't know how to pronounce your first name, so I'm just going to call you Morgan. I apologize. Is it Kachina? Kashina? Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. So I love this particular point because there's like a little bit of like an off-kilterness to it when we get into this. And then when it's resolved, it's just like, ah, there it is. So we still have this little bit of a off-kilter. And it just kind of wanders for a little bit. But wait for it. And it's weird that it starts on the same note that the last one ended on. Except for that one, I guess. There's the resolve. Yeah. Actually, from Genesis, going off of what Ding Dong is saying for the Firth of Fifth, I had Harold the Barreled, It, and Counting Out Time. Those were my three favorite. I love Drama. I love how it opens up with Machine Messiah, one of the darkest tracks from Yes. Although I have a whole rant about Drama. I love that little flourish at the end. Just that. Okay, so I'm going to interact with you guys a little bit within the chat, but this one I'm mainly going to narrate how I picture Turn of the Century's music video. So at this point, like, visualize this with me, right? Close your eyes and just visualize this with me. We're in a crowded city. Think of like your major metropolitan areas, like we're talking like New York, we're talking like Chicago, we're talking like Toronto or London or Paris. Very busy street, lots of people walking around, right? Like mid-morning, we'll say. So the sun's still kind of like it's there. It's not like 100% bright. And it's just kind of like cityscapes. Going in with like people wandering around, very crowded, People kind of not really making eye contact, wandering in and out of crowded areas. And every once in a while, we realize that these people that we're looking at, there are two individuals that are in each one of these clips. And they're not like together because each clip has either one or the other individual. So hopefully you guys are picturing this. You know, one is buying a coffee at a local coffee shop. One is waiting for their transit to come. Something to show that even within such a very crowded and populated area, we still have some isolation going on here. And I know that concept has been tackled a lot. Bear with me. I came up with this idea when I was in grade 12. So that's going back a long time ago. And eventually, we get to a point where these two individuals are walking down a street, kind of coming towards each other, not really noticing one another. So at this point, it then kind of just shifts a little bit. And we're at more of like a large ball. Like, not necessarily like a masquerade ball, but one of those like fancy dress balls. And people are dancing a little bit. Again, it's going to be major cheesy and major corny, but hang on. And so you see that through this dance, it's still kind of the same. People aren't really making eye contact. People are just kind of follow the rhythm, following the moves, following the dance routines. And eventually, you see that the two individuals are in the same room, and they're kind of like, they're not on the dance floor yet, but they're catching each other's eye, just very subtly. And then back at the city, and the two start walking towards each other. But again, they don't recognize one another because they're not really making eye contact with everybody else, because they're kind of blending in with the rest of the crowd. Yeah, pretty much. Looks like Morgan kind of saw what was going on. But wait, don't get ahead of me. Follow me here. Follow me. You can see the signs. Ignore them. Just follow. So we're back at the ball. And they're walking towards each other. And at this point, they grab each other's hands. And they begin just a very light dance. As we kind of just center in on them. Alright, everybody slowly kind of moves away, and it's just them dancing. And like, think of like almost like ice skating or something like that. As they're just making their move around. You know, there's a little bit of a jump, a little bit of a twirl. And as they're dancing, it's almost like, again, really cheesy, but like a smoke machine starts to come up a little bit. And slowly we start to see that they are higher up than they should be. And at this point, it's their feet start to rise up from the ground. Again, super cheesy, and they kind of like lift themselves up. And suddenly like the roof is gone, and they're just kind of like slowly drifting up. And then they almost like skyrocket, right? So they're kind of like clutching each other, holding each other hard. And once we get to this crescendo, they go through the clouds. Starry night, bright moon. There's a little bit of that camera sweep as they're dancing amongst the clouds. Clouds are now the dance floor. The stars are now the sky. And there's going to be like all those like over the top cheesy, like You know those camera sweeps where you like start far away and go in and then pass by? Totally milking this for all its cheese. Trust me, to like a 17-year-old male, this was like high fantasy for me, right? And in this moment, they are alone together. And of course, they're making the most of it. I just love that crescendo and what was used within that. Gotta love Chris Squire's bass line there. And then they slowly start to descent back down. And slowly the walls come back in, the dancers return, and they touch down, and they're just dancing normally. And then slowly the scene fades, the camera pulls out. And then we're kind of back into that cityscape. Right? Kind of in that, you know, metropolitan area. The two are walking towards each other. Right about there they pass. Again, not quite looking up. And they start to walk away. But then at the same time, they both kind of perk up. And then turn to look at each other. There's just a little bit of recognition there. Just a little bit of recognition. Like, I know you. I know you. Anyway, that was my in my head music video of that. I'm going to take a look at the chat now, because it looks like some people have been chatting away here. Let's see. And I'm also not a big fan of parallels. Like, I love parallels, and I love that organ sound that we've got there. But not my favorite track. Out of all the tracks, this is probably my least favorite. Which is a little bit of a shame, because that's how Yes Shows? Yeah, Yes Shows starts off. Anyway, let's see what we've got here. Do it, I guess it's Do Troll You. Hi from Toronto. Hey, another Torontonian. How's it going? Also from Toronto, so huzzah. Thoughts on Judas Priest? Wondering if you would put them on a new album. I'm not too familiar with Judas Priest, actually. Evil Mangoes. Never really listened to them. Love Yes, but I don't know this one. Oh, Cody, you are in for a treat, my friend. Going for the One is one of my favorite Yes albums. It's in my top 5, maybe even my top 3. Just blew me away when it first came out. Let's see here. Sandra introduced me to Saga and fell in love with them. The chapters, and I've been expanding my horizons ever since. Oh, Saga is such a standout band. The only one I've really listened to from Saga, though, is their self-titled first album. The Perfectionist off of that. Oh, I love that piano work. It's such a underrated little ditty that they have within The Perfectionist. If you haven't listened to The Perfectionist by Saga yet, go out and do so. It's fantastic. Oh, Morgan's saying that the end makes you think of Your Name. That is a good point. Yeah, I love Your Name. It was one of my favorite movies of last year. I reviewed the soundtrack and I watch it endlessly. Love Your Name. It does need a little bit of work, even though I love it. Like, I watch it endlessly, right? It does need a little bit of work. But actually, it was funny. I was watching La La Land last year, and there's the observatory scene where Maya and Seb were dancing, and they did that whole thing, like the exact same thing that was going on, and I kind of want a supercut to see if I can do it. Like, make my own little fan video, because, I mean, that's what they do, right? They dance up amongst the stars in the clouds, and I'm like, I could probably do that myself. And Cody is saying that he loves Fragile, but couldn't really get into Close to the Edge as much. Yeah, talking about Fragile, I love how Fragile, the concept where each member had their own track that they had full dominion over, and then they came together and kind of made a cohesive Yes track, and I really, really enjoyed that for that. I love Close to the Edge. It's, again, in my top 3. But I can see why people don't gravitate to it as much. But I still love it. And yeah, again, Your Name, one of my favorites. It always hits me. I always get teary-eyed where I don't want to spoil it. But there's one moment, no matter how many times I've watched that movie, I still, like, it's Ugly Whales. Sorry, I just love that little bit. Yeah, I didn't realize how much of that organ sound, like that high organ sound that Rick Wakeman uses on this album in particular. And it's interesting because I love like the deep organ sound mixed with a high mellotron sound. But I'll take the high organ sound. I love the organ. Best Yes album from the 80s. Drama. Easily Drama. Drama 100%. Oh, getting back to the rant about Drama, I guess, that you brought it up, Evil Mangoes. Yeah, I love how it opens up with that really dark Machine Messiah, and then ends with Tempest Fugit. I also love like the concept of Drama, because it was essentially like the Buggles smacking into Yes. Like it's such a strange marketing ploy, but I guess it worked. Let's see here. Best 4 albums are Relayered, Tales, Fragile, and Close to the Edge. That's a good list. Really good list. I found CTTE kind of strange and not in a good way. Just my opinion, though. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I would wonder what you would think about Relayered then, because Relayered to me is quite strange. And it's the second half of Relayered that I can't get on board with. Like, I still love the 2 songs on the second half of Relayered, but it does feel a little weird. Oh man, you got to go to Cruise to the Edge. Looks like Do I Troll You got to see Saga when they went to Cruise to the Edge. That was always something that I really wanted to do. Unfortunately, I don't have the time or the cash to do it, but that would have been amazing because Moon Safari was there, and I always want to see Moon Safari live, and they're coming to Montreal, which is close to Toronto, but it's still quite a trek, and again, I just don't have the time or the money to do something like that, but very jealous. Very, very jealous. See, now I'm thinking about like what were my top favorites. I mean, obviously we've got Close to the Edge. Definitely going for the 1. Tales definitely are up there, but Magnification. If you guys haven't heard Magnification, their 2001 album, go out and find it because it is stellar. Like, it is A+ material. Okay, we're coming into Wondrous Stories, and I friggin' love Wondrous Stories. It's just so... right? Like, it's not over the top, it's not like blow down the doors, it's very subtle. And it's just so happy. It's almost like Time in a Word version 2. Oh, somebody's asking about Moon Safari. After this, your homework is to go out and listen to Bloom Judd, listen to Lover's End, and listen to Doorway to Summer. Because if you haven't heard Moon Safari yet, you need to listen to Moon Safari. Like, you need to listen to them. They're one of the most important progressive rock bands of this current century. And that includes all of the bands that have come out of last century and this century. You need to listen to them. Keywords to describe Moon Safari: optimistic, symphonic, celebratory, like celebration. Yeah, very symphonic. Harmonizations. Anderson Ponte. I'm not familiar with him. I'll make a note to check that out. I'm so glad that Rick came back for this album. So glad. Just that building, right? That it keeps building. Yeah, I always said that this was Time in a Word if Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman and Alan White were on here. Checked out Moon Safari and liked them, but I wouldn't listen to them over and over like other bands. That's fair. That's fair. I can, but I understand that, I mean, everybody's musical tastes are different. And that's completely fair. Thoughts on Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe? Interesting. I'm not as familiar with it. I think I listened to it once or twice in my teenage, but never really fell into it. I'll have to really revisit it. Oh, well, if you're stuck on listening to Asia and Hackett, that's pretty close. I mean, the two they blend quite well. Like, they're kind of like Asia in that they're quite accessible. And they're also very much like Hackett in their technicality and playouts. So hopefully that'll fit right in with you. It's funny how I'm talking about Moon Safari for half the time we're listening to a Yes album. Especially with one of my favorite songs of Wondrous Stories. Ah, I missed it. There it is. That's what I'm waiting for. Oh, Ding Dong got to see Carl Palmer on the 9th. Good for you. That would have been a great show. Okay, so now we're coming into the Goliath of Awaken. And this is like one of the main... This is one of my favorite songs from Yes. And I really wish that they had kept to... I believe when they first wrote this, it was originally like a 20-minute song, where the first... I want to say like 5 minutes were like this almost ambient kind of movement, where they were just kind of testing the grounds. And I believe there's a bootleg where they kept that first 5 minutes in. I listened to it once and it was stellar. It was just stellar. I love how it just like opens it up from there. Thoughts on topographic drama, like the live performance? I have a whole rant about that if you're talking about the topographic drama, like the latest live album from them. Because, yeah, there's a whole lot of drama that's going on with Yes right now, if those of you who don't know. I even realized, even before all this drama, they were putting out live album after live album after live album. And I find ever since Keys to Ascension, every live album past that... Sorry, Symphonic Live is probably the last real good live album from them. Because ever since then, they just don't have the energy that's needed and that drive. And topographic drama kind of has that, and I'm sad that they didn't include the second track off of Topographic Oceans. And I don't know, it just kind of feels flat. They should have put Topographic Ocean or Drama out right after going what was it, Fly From Here, because a lot of movements from Fly From Here were done as demos in the Drama and 90125 era. So kind of hope that they were about 10 years short. Let's leave it there. Personal top prog bands you talk about are Genesis, Haken, Leprous, Opeth, Neo, Obliviscaries, and you introduced me to Arion. I'm glad, Cody, that I introduced you to Arion, because Arion is fantastic. I really, really love Arion. And I actually found out about Neo Obliviscaries through you guys. So I gotta thank you for that, and they've just been blowing my mind. Kielos is saying that he feels like the keyboard solos on this album are a bit too much. They kind of break the soundscape, in my opinion. I mean, you're not wrong. I think that they were just so excited to have Rick back that they gave him a lot more space in comparison to his other works. Because the last album that Rick was on prior to this was Topographic Oceans, and he didn't have a whole lot to do. So I can see that now that they were shortening the songs, keeping things a little bit more concise, they gave him a little bit more oomph there. Ooh, somebody's got Aquarius on vinyl. Very exciting. Yeah. And Steve, once again, proves his mastery of the guitar. Like, this guy is able to shred before, like, metal shredding was really a thing. Like, he and Steve Hackett, are just, like, shredding up the place before this was common practice. Oh yeah, Airion's last album, I need a little bit more time with it. I listened to it, I put it back on the shelf, and I haven't really revisited it. But yeah, it was definitely cool. A favorite Airion album is definitely, and I know it's cliche, but it really is The Human Equation. Every time I listen to that, there are several moments on The Human Equation that just make me weep, and it has all of my favorite vocalists of that era, right? Like, it's got James LeBray from Dream Theater. It's got Michael Eckefart from Opeth. It's got even Heavy Devi, Devin Townsend as Rage, which, I mean, each one is just perfectly cast. And Heather Finley as Love, perfect casting on Airion's part, or Arjun's part on that. Just to the T. And the musicianship that's found on there. Please rant about GTR. GTR. I am not 100% familiar with GTR, to be perfectly honest with you. I've kind of stayed away from that, so that's probably why. But yeah, Human Equation from Airion is like one of my top. It would be one of my. Oh shoot! I missed one of the great crescendos. Oh well. I love this crescendo. And I love how it went from such a chaotic, crazy, all over the place, right into this very simple, like it's just boom, 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 boom. Like, that's all it is. And I love that deep line from the guitar work and that high organ sound. I need to sneeze. I think that's it. Yeah, and I will admit, for the Human Equation, at first I couldn't really get into... Wait. Sorry, whenever that happens, I have to stop. Yeah, because the first album from Airion that I got into was 01011001. And then when I went into Human Equation, it was much more of a proggy album, whereas 01 was much more of a metal album. So it took me a little bit more time to get into, but once I did, whew. And Hackett and Howe compilation. Oh, okay. Because I know Hackett and Squire did one, and instead of calling themselves Higher, which makes a little bit more sense, they called themselves Squacket. That was a very interesting project. So to hear that Hackett and Howe compilation, well, now that you're asking me to rant about it, I have a feeling it's not what I'm envisioning. So that'll be interesting. And now we're in the lowdown, right? We've got ourselves down and we're going to start building ourselves up. And actually, this was my first concert that I went to when I was about 15 years old. My dad took me to a Yes concert, and this was my first real introduction to prog, where I was like forced to sit down to it. And this was before I really got it. Like, I always said that Genesis was the one that opened up my eyes, like opened up my third eye type of thing. So I was presented with this, and I didn't quite understand it, and I kept looking over to him, and I'm like, is the song over yet? Like, holy jeez. But they also played like Revealing Science of God and Awaken, and I'm kicking myself now that I didn't appreciate it. But I do remember very vividly, they got to this point, and there was just something that I just, like, John Anderson was playing this small harp, and it's just... like, it's so subtle. And at this point, like, throughout most of the concert, because it was in the summer and it was an outdoors concert, it was still pretty light out. But at this point, the sun was just going down, so it provided a perfect landscape for this particular point. And did I listen to Lukinson's project with Annika? I did. I really enjoyed The Gentle Storm. I liked how each song was done twice, one as the storm and one as the gentle. And I really enjoyed it. Not as much as I enjoyed Arjun's other project of Lost in the New Reel. But yeah, no, I really liked it. Let's see. If there's an album that you really love that I couldn't get into, it's Return to Omadon. I love the original Omadon, but Return to Omadon I really didn't like. I do. That's fair. And somebody did mention that the one drawback to Return to Omadon was that Mike insisted on playing everything, including the drumming, and because of that, it dropped the overall enjoyment of that, and that's fair. But yeah, I still love it, and I understand why some people don't, but I completely understand why they wouldn't. Revealing Science of God takes forever. I will agree, but I think that's part of its charm. Much like Awakens, it takes its time to develop and really gets into it, and so once it does, it's such a great payoff. Saw them last year. Steve Howe's not getting any younger. Yeah. The last time I saw Yes was when they were doing their triple album. They were doing this, going for the one. They were doing Close to the Edge, and they were doing the Yes album. And those three albums are some of my favorites from Yes. And I don't want to say they butchered it, but I will say those were my least favorite renditions of those songs. Now that was when Chris was still with us. And once Chris passed, I said, I can't do it. Like, I can't. To me, Yes needs to have John Anderson, Steve Howe, and Chris Squire. And if two of the three aren't playing, then I just can't do it. So. Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, Revealing Science of the God does take its time. Don't get me wrong, it does. Okay, here we go. This is the build, right? This is the climb. And this is one of the few Yes songs where I haven't heard a live recording that I enjoy more than the studio recording. And I'll get to that when it happens. I'm going to turn it up just a bit. All right, Steve, take it away. I love that bottom on that song, right? Chris's bass line with Rick Wakeman's like lower part of the organ there. Oh, that's interesting. Cody was saying that whenever he says out loud how much he enjoys an album, suddenly he doesn't enjoy it anymore. Maybe you want to keep your opinions inside then, but I don't know. I love that punch of this song, like bow, 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 bow. Okay, here we go. Now this is the moment that I wait for. This one right here. We got the first punch. But it's not the first punch I wait for. It's the second one. They keep building it. Because it's got a swing back and a release. Swing. That is what I wait for. But they always go up the octave in a live performance. I need that bottom. I need that deep, deep bottom. And then when we get into this one, there's the mellotron. There it is. Oh, it's that. And every time they play that live, when they get to that second hit, they always go straight up to the second octave. And I believe that is a grave mistake. You need to keep it very deep in that first one. And then you go up to the second octave because you still have room to grow. Once you get to that, there's nowhere else to go. So you need to play it back there and then go up. I know I got pretty emotional, but it's true. Let's take a look at some of the chat box here. John Anderson awake with... oh, it's going up. It's going up. Chat box. Getting alive. Here we go. Have I watched John Anderson awake with Todd Mobile? No, I haven't. I'll take a look at that. Black Butter Park is a huge example. I'm guessing that's going back to when you say you love an album that you're not a big fan of it anymore. That's fair. I actually am in the process of editing my Opeth Worst to Best albums. So you'll see where those guys lay. Do I troll you? Yes. Yes, you need to listen to this. You need to go out and listen, get this album because, as I said, one of my favorite Yes albums. Turn of the Century with Steve Howe and Annie. That would be interesting. I know I saw... It was another rendition of Turn of the Century that I particularly liked. And again, it was much more acoustic. And it was good. It was sweet. And then we just needed that little bit of a play out. Just, And that was going for the one. What I am going to do, because we have a little bit more time, and I want to spend just a little bit more time, I'm going to play a song that sounds very similar to this. Now, when I purchased my drama album, they had a number of songs that was recorded around the same time. And there was one song in particular that was on that I fell in love with, and it's a shame more people don't know about. It's called In the Tower. I found this guy around the same time, so I always kind of pictured this as just like a final extra song. So I'm going to play that for you guys right now. And then after this, I think I'm going to call it a night. So if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know now, because we have about, I'll say, another 5 minutes before I skedaddle from here. Let's see here. Looks like the chat box. Let's see here. That Todd Mobile Live Awaken is glorious. All right. Well, I'll have a listen to it. Hopefully it does what I had said, because at this point I still hadn't really listened to a Awaken live version that I've really had on. Have I listened to the band Elder? I have not. And Morgane says Hound of the Baskerville. I'm not quite sure what that is in response to. Oh, and it looks like Sandra says, really enjoying my Worst to Best series. I'm glad. It's a lot of work. Oh, geez, it's a lot of work. But I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I can only really do one a month. And so I'm going to keep to that. And yeah, Opeth is next. So hopefully I can get that up by the end of the week. We'll see how that goes. Chris Check, right? Worth going into... Okay. Any theories on Act 6 of The Deer Hunter? I have no theories, and I want to keep it that way. I want to be pleasantly surprised. From what I hear, it's going to be very different, and in some respects, in some ways, I'm very excited about that. So yeah, the S concert I was at like an hour ago. Oh, you just came from it. Oh, right on. It was really good. Tropographic Oceans took up a lot of the time, though. Yeah, I think with that whole topographic drama, I think it's split between I think 2.5 songs, because they do the acoustics things from Giants Under the Ocean, and then Rituals and Revealing Science of God, and then they do a number of, I think most of drama. So yeah. Again, I love this song of In the Tower. Alright, and I think I'm going to end it there. Alright, thank you guys for coming out for another live stream. I'm going to try my best of doing one of these every other week, and I'm going to pretty much keep to Tuesdays. Tuesdays are a really great, I guess, night for me. So yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks for engaging in that chat box. Really had a great time with you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Hit me up on, I guess I should have done this at the beginning, but on all of the social media, I've got an Instagram account where I've been putting up my collection. Let me know on Twitter what you want me to live stream next, or just comment on this video once it gets processed and goes in the recording. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming out today, and I hope to see everybody out here again soon. Take care and have a wonderful evening.